Yo, what's up, chefs? It's Vinny, and we got another banger for you today, coming in the form of my Endgame Essence Drain Lich Guide. Now, here's the deal, folks. I got some good news and some bad news. The good news is that, as you can see, the build is actually coming along quite nicely. We've got that really good and satisfying clear speed in maps. We're tanky enough to the point that I think we can face tank a Spirit Bomb from Goku. We have decent enough boss damage that it's not completely laughable, and this is all on a roughly 10 Divine Orb budget. Now, the bad news is that, well, one, the boss damage is arguably laughable, but much more importantly is the fact that the build actually just breaks the game due to, quote, performing too many actions too fast. And the worst part is that this results in you losing out on whatever you were doing. So if you're doing a map, for example, once you load back into the game, your portals are gone, any loot you picked up during the map is gone, the map counts as failed, so you lose all of the random encounters and mechanics on the map node, and yet it's just a pretty terrible feeling when this happens. Now, I know there are probably a lot of you asking yourself two questions right now. One, what causes it / how often does it happen? And then two, if the build breaks the game, then why are you making a build guide on it? Well, allow me to answer both of those questions really quickly, and then we will hop into the guide. As for what causes it / how often it happens, I can only speak about my own experiences here, but it does happen pretty often for me. I'd say 1 in every 3 to 4 maps, and just from today alone, I have a few examples like 1, 2, 3, don't know about this one, but for sure 4, 5, 6 examples from just today where I ended up getting kicked out of the map, losing my progress, losing all the loot, all that bad stuff, I should say. As for what causes it, all I can say here, once again, my own experience, not a software developer or anything, but it seems to have something to do with Dark Effigy, and when there is a plethora of monsters on the screen, all affected by contagion or what have you, Dark Effigy attempts to shoot projectiles out at all the monsters at the same time. That seems to be triggering the too many actions performed too fast error code that then crashes your game, or kicks you out of the game at least. And as for why I'm still making the build guide, well, there's two primary reasons. One, I really don't know how widespread this issue is. To my understanding, Essence Drain Lich is a pretty popular build this league, and I could only find that one singular forum thread of people discussing this issue. So maybe it's just, very rare. Maybe it's something specific related to my hardware. I really don't know. Feel free, please let me know in the comments if you're experiencing this issue too, or if you have any fixes for the issue. I would love to know that. And then finally, hopefully this will maybe just bring some exposure to the issue. If it is more widespread, and for whatever reason a lot of people just aren't talking about it, who knows, maybe GGG will see this video, or this will bring it to their attention somehow, and we can get this fixed. With all of that being said though, outside of this one pretty major issue, I have been having an absolute blast with the build, so let's go ahead and hop into the guide. As always, of course, we have a full Mobalytics, max roll, and POE planner, as well as a new and updated full trade links Google document. This is going to have you completely covered when it comes to your items. It's got priority stats and then trade links for every single item slot. You're going to be perfectly good to go. First things first, I'm going to do things a little bit different this time, and I'm actually going to start off by just going over the rotation and gameplay of the build. So of course, here I am in a T15 map, just a normal map. The usual rotation when you're in maps is simply just Contagion, Essence Drain, and that's pretty much it. Now, truthfully, the build gets a lot better if you throw in Dark Effigy as well, especially if you have any rares nearby, because your Contagion Essence Drain combo, it's just not quite enough to cut it whenever it comes to big rares, but your Dark Effigy kind of slaps them down, as you can see. Unfortunately, you just run the risk of crashing your game and breaking your map, and do with that what you will. As you can see though, we can blink around and stuff too. I'll just kind of quickly just show a little bit more gameplay without really talking too much, just kind of lock in just a tiny bit, try and demonstrate the effectiveness of the build. Hit a dead end. You can see my Contagion Essence Drain, we have a lot of area of effect. So our Contagion Essence Drain, mainly our Contagion. Oh, I thought for a second there, I thought we crashed. We got close to crashing, but our Contagion actually has a ton of area of effect, so it spreads very, very nicely. You don't actually have to use it that often. And yeah, that's pretty much the rotation, or that's the general gameplay loop when it comes to mapping. Not super complicated, Very satisfying though whenever you're not crashing, obviously. I'll just show a rare really quick. Drop 2 dark effigies. And easy peasy. And when it comes to bossing, nothing major changes in the rotation. The only added steps are that you want to drop a Sigil of Power before the fight, place your dark effigies within the Sigil of Power, and then you're going to also incorporate Despair into your rotation. So now you're just going to be applying Contagion and Essence Drain to the boss, and then roughly every 15 or so seconds, you should reapply Despair. This, of course, will change based on your Despair duration. Actually, mine, it's currently saying is only 11 seconds, so I was a little bit off with the 15 seconds, but just keep an eye on the Despair debuff. Whenever it fades away, make sure you go ahead and reapply it. Now that you have a general understanding of how the build works, we can just quickly go over the skills. Starting off with the bread and butter, Contagion, Essence Drain, we're running Unleash and Chain here. This effectively makes it so that each of these skills are going to hit 3 targets, so you don't need to be super precise, which is super nice. After that, for Essence Drain, we just have a bunch of damage support gems, so I'm not really going to go over these. For Contagion, we have Magnified Effect, Hinder, and Chaotic Freeze. Magnified Effect, increased area of effect in general, is going to be very valuable for this build. It's going to increase the range at which your Contagion can spread, which is just super high quality of life. You can press Contagion on one monster and it'll spread throughout like half the map. It's just amazing. You can do an entire breach with one Contagion. It just feels great, but you do need a lot of area of effect for this to work well, so we're going to talk more about that later in some of the other areas where we do increase our area of effect also. Hinder and Chaotic Freeze are just 2 support gems, or 2 like utility support gems, so they're quite nice. You can freeze bosses, you're slowing everything, it's pretty good. For Dark Effigy, we're running Envenom, which gives us another Chaos damage over time effect, which is actually what causes our Dark Effigy to bombard the enemies to begin with. So we're getting another instance of just throwing out projectiles from this support gem. After that, for maps, we just have a bunch of extra damage gems and overabundance, so we get +1 totem. Plus, for maps specifically, we have Ancestral Urgency, which this makes it so that we can place the totems much, much quicker. And this feels great in maps whenever you're not crashing. Like, it feels amazing. You can actually, honestly, run around and just use Contagion and Dark Effigy if you want. Honestly, I do that a lot for breaches, to be specific. But yeah, just Ancestral Urgency, you gotta try it. It feels amazing. Also, quickly note for bosses, if you want to min-max, you can swap out Chain for Derange, and I have all of this information down here at the bottom. Although, swapping out Chain, I don't notice much of a difference, so do with that what you will. And then for bosses on Dark Effigy, we swap out Ancestral Urgency for Concentrated Effect. Moving on to Despair, this is going to be our curse, so we're going to be lowering the chaos resistance of the enemy. This can go below 0, so it's just a damage amplifier in most instances because most enemies have 0% chaos res. Decaying Hex is another chaos damage over time effect, scales very well with our Dark Effigy, of course, and then Heightened Curse Inspiration. If you so choose, you could put Cursed Ground in here for your 4th slot. I've just noticed with the amount of curse duration that we have, that Cursed Ground just doesn't feel that great. It actually feels better to just apply the curse to the boss. Also, just quickly note for the 5th slot on Contagion, if you want, you can put Intense Agony, but we don't really care about the damage from Contagion anyways, so there's not really many good 5th socket options for Contagion, to be honest. Blasphemy, Temp Chains, Encumbrance, Ritualistic Curse, nothing crazy. Withering Presence, Persistence, Clarity, nothing crazy. Then we'll move on to some of the more, unique things. Convalescence and Blink. These are going to be attached to your weapon set 2 specifically. So no, we do not have 200 spirit. We only have 100, but you can set these to weapon set 2. Hopefully you guys know this by now. You just weapon swap, and then now we can Blink. And we can also use our Convalescence if we were at lower than max energy shield, which right now we're not. Our Incinerate, we're only using this in combination with Life Tap and the Visage of Aya to remove our energy shield and then lower our total life, or not our total life, but lower our current life, so that way we can benefit from things like Quick Response. Mana Drain is just coming from the wand, don't worry about this. Actually, I'll have to go and beat this. And then Sigil of Power, this is coming from our Chiming Staff, which is our 2nd weapon set. This is going to give us, and more importantly, our Dark Effigies, more damage for boss fights. Moving on to the passive tree, and the first thing to note is that this is set up for a level 91 character, and the red lines are for your weapon set 1, which is what you use 99% of the time. And the green lines are for weapon set 2, which is specifically used for Despair, Blink, and Convalescence. After that, we'll just go over the Ascendancy choices really quick. If you are still leveling up, I'd recommend checking out my leveling guide, but in order, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4 for the Ascendancy choices. The first two are going to be kind of a package deal that make it so that your life cannot change while you have Energy Shield, but 10% of the damage you take bypasses your Energy Shield. Effectively, this just gives you 10% damage reduction. This gets even better when combined with Heavy Buffer, which is another 5% of damage taken bypasses Energy Shield. And then also its Xeri's Disdain is an additional 10% as well. So a total of 25% damage reduction, because all of that damage that's bypassing the Energy Shield basically goes into the void, since our life can't actually change. So a super, super nice defensive layer. Outside of that, some pretty unique things to my passive tree is that I'm going for Spirit Bond, increased totem life, increased totem duration, as well as extra life and damage as well. I think this is quite nice. Before I was going for preservation, but I actually think this is just a better use of points over here, because the totems are pretty squishy, especially on boss fights. Those of you that are currently playing the build probably know, like during King of the Mist or Zesht, your totems can die. I noticed once I got this node, it felt quite a bit better. In addition to that, we're also anointing Reverberation on our amulet for an additional 20% increased area of effect. I've messed around with Spaghettification, Event Horizon, and then even saving the points on Spiral into Insanity. But honestly, every time I've messed around with it in POE, I always just come back to Reverberation. The only way I could see swapping this out would be if you want to really min-max for bosses and have 2 amulets, one for mapping, one for bosses. And for bosses, you could then, if you really want, you could anoint Event Horizon, would be my choice. But to each their own there. There's honestly multiple options. I just think Reverberation is by far the best for general play. Of course, make sure you get Whispers of Doom. By default, you can only apply 1 curse at a time to an enemy. So without Whispers of Doom, you'll never be able to apply Despair to a boss. It'll constantly get overwritten by your Temp Chains and Blasphemy. So definitely make sure you pick this up. And then everything else is honestly pretty self-explanatory, I would say. Of course, we're getting all the chaos damage nodes, spell damage nodes here. We're getting increased level of chaos skills. We're getting increased effective withered. Increased effective withered is very, very valuable. We'll talk more about that whenever we go over the jewels. Increased curse effect, of course. Some additional stun and ailment threshold from Energy Shield right here, here, and here. Some cast speed, and generally just a bunch of Energy Shield, a bunch of damage. Nothing super crazy. I'm sure you guys can figure this out pretty easily. Moving on to the items, and the first thing I'm going to cover is the jewels, and more specifically, what I think would be the best jewel to go in your Lich jewel socket. For prefixes, I would say Max Energy Shield and Increased Effective Withered are going to be the best two. And then for suffixes, I think it would be Cast Speed and Skill Effect Duration. Unfortunately, if you try and search for this on the trade site, there's just none with that set of 4 stats available. Of course, though, if you make your way over to the full TradeLink School document, you'll find a plethora of other really good stats for the jewels. I'm almost always getting Max Energy Shield as one of my prefixes, and then either Spell or Chaos damage. Honestly, the Increased Effective Withered is like pretty rare, or seemingly rare, and usually more expensive to get in combination with other good stats. So usually for prefixes, it's Energy Shield and then one of these two. For suffixes, I'm really mainly just focusing on Skill Effect Duration and Cast Speed. There's not a lot of good options here for suffixes. Stun Threshold is okay, but as you'll see if we go over to our POB really quick and the calculations, we already have like a ridiculously high stun threshold, so getting any more from jewels is just completely unnecessary as far as I can tell. Not useless, but definitely unnecessary. And then outside of that, it's basically just mana regen. Honestly, like I said, there's really just not a lot of good suffixes, so it's mainly cast speed, skill effect duration. Those are the big two. As for the rest of the items, similarly to the jewels, I recommend taking a look at the trade links document. I have extra information here for every single item slot about like the good stats or what I'm really focusing on, but I'll just go over them here on the video as well. For the wand, most important is the level of all chaos spell skills or just spell skills, but the chaos spell skills is likely going to be cheaper. After that, you're just looking for spell damage, chaos damage, cast speed, and then intelligence if you need it, but ideally you shouldn't. And then mana regen is like a nice cherry on top stat. Honestly, mana regen isn't too much of an issue for this build because you just don't have to use your spells that often, and we actually have like really high base mana regen from one of our ascendancy nodes, but mana regen helps. So if you can get it, or if you want to spend extra divine for it, that would be like the ideal extra stat. Moving on to the helmet, it's Zeri's Disdain. Absolutely insane. I probably would never swap from this, even if I had like 100 divine to spend on a helmet. I'd probably just stick with it Zeri's Disdain. It's really that good. Ideally, of course, you're trying to get as high rarity as possible. So we have a 19% and then 15% on the bottom roll. You need to have 15% here. I'd say it's very, very mandatory. You can get 15% for like 5 exalts. After that, if you want to spend a little bit extra, you can get 2 sockets. Ideally, I think for the sockets here, you want to put increased area of effect talismans, the bear talismans. There's not a lot of other good options here because increased energy shield wouldn't do much for you. You could put chaos res, but ideally you should get chaos res elsewhere because there's not a lot of places to get area of effect. This is one of them, so you should if you can. After Adziri's, we'll move on to the focus. Very similar to the wand, the most important thing here is increased level of spell skills, cast speed, which we actually have as a fractured stat, but it looks like Mobilytics doesn't pick up fractured stats quite yet. But most important things are spell skills, cast speed. After that, it would be spell damage, chaos damage, and then unlike a lot of other caster builds, I actually think energy shield on your focus is quite important for this build because the build scales so well with energy shield. And then if you need, you can get like resistances or mana regen, but those are just, the cherry on top, not super mandatory. Moving on to the amulet, very similar once again. You're looking for increased levels of spell skills. Not a lot of places you can get that. It's very important to get it where you can. Resistances are quite important. Max energy shield and increased maximum energy shield, I would say, are quite mandatory on the amulet, honestly, because you're going to get so much value from those stats. So I probably wouldn't get an amulet without them. Outside of that, mana regen is good, cast speed is good. There's a ton of good stats you can get on your amulet, rarity, so many different options. So it's really just to each their own and kind of like what you need at that given time. If you need resistances, get resistances. If you don't, get rarity. There's a lot of different options here. For the rings, it's kind of similar, but the key stats for the rings, I would say, are increased chaos damage and increased cast speed. Our left ring is actually not a great example. Our right ring is a better example, but increased chaos damage, increased cast speed, I would say are pretty mandatory. After that, I would focus on getting rarity of items found, life, and then if you need resistances or attributes, this is a great place to get it. Also, mana regen could be a cherry on top, but certainly not mandatory. Moving on to the chest piece, trying to get as high of an energy shield as absolutely, as physically possible is super important here. One of the biggest energy shield pieces we can get, so it's very, very important. Outside of that, max life, resistances, attributes, really all that you can get on the chest piece. Not a lot of options here. For the gloves, you could stick with Doedri's Tenure, which is the unique pair of gloves we used in the leveling guide. Eventually, I would probably swap out of them once you have like a divine or so to spend on a pair of gloves. And then at that point, you're looking for high energy shield, rarity, resistances, life. That's pretty much it. For the boots, of course, movement speed, very similar to the gloves, outside of the fact that you want movement speed. After that, energy shield, life, rarity, resistances, attributes if you absolutely need it. But this build honestly isn't too attribute hungry, so you shouldn't need attributes in a lot of pieces. Belts, pretty much the same for every other build in the game. You want life, resistances, mana, not super special. And that's going to be all the items. For the flasks, nothing super crazy here. Honestly, I think Melting Maelstrom's kind of a bait. It basically feels useless. Honestly, mana flasks in general don't feel very great on this build. Like, you don't really notice them much. Life Flask does literally nothing, so you basically never have to press your flasks on this build at all. For your charms, I actually think Thawing Charm and Stone Charm are quite good. If you feel like you're never getting frozen or you want to try to mess around, you could swap one of these out for an Ignite Charm and the other one out for a Gold Charm. And also, if you want, you can get the unique Freeze Charm, but, that's going to cost you like a Divine. It's going to up your budget. It's up to you. And that is going to conclude the guide. As always, if you guys enjoyed, please make sure to subscribe. And like I said before, if you're experiencing the same issue or think you have a potential fix for the issue, please do let me know down in the comments. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next one. And last but not least, take it easy, chefs.
fade away.